Chosen one, your bank account will shock you. God is funding you now. You may not fully understand the shift happening around you yet, but something inside you has already begun to rise. It feels like a quiet turning point, a moment where your inner world starts preparing itself for a new level of stability, clarity, and abundance in your life. The transformation begins not in your finances, but in your spirit. Before anything around you changes, something within you awakens. This awakening is the true funding. This awakening is the beginning of a new flow. Chosen one, before we go deeper into this message, watch this video until the end, and write your warmest wishes and 144 in the comments to anchor your intention. We acknowledge this moment once here, and then we return fully to the message of elevation unfolding inside you. Now, chosen one, press the hype button, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. The truth is this: your life is shifting because you're shifting. The increased clarity you feel, the rising courage you sense, the new decisions you are making, these are signs that your internal identity is changing. And when your identity changes, everything connected to your identity begins to align with that evolution. The funding you are receiving is not the world giving you more. It is your spirit giving you access to a version of yourself who makes decisions that lead to more. It is the luxury of stability, the wealth of peace, the richness of confidence. This is the beginning of a new chapter where your inner world becomes your source of strength. Chosen one, the shock does not come from a single moment. It comes from realizing how far you've grown, how deeply you've healed, how powerfully you've evolved. There was a time you were surviving. There was a time you were doubting. There was a time you were shrinking yourself to fit the expectations of others. But now, you are becoming someone different, someone steady, someone aligned, someone who can handle the weight of greater things without collapsing under pressure. This version of you is the true abundance. You may start to notice the way your mind is changing. Thoughts that used to spiral no longer control you. Worries that once felt overwhelming now pass more quickly. You see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You find solutions where you once felt stuck. This mental empowerment is part of the funding. This is the mental wealth that leads to emotional wealth, spiritual wealth, and eventually practical wealth. But it always begins inside. Chosen one, you may feel a new sense of ownership rising within you. Ownership over your decisions, your emotions, your future. You no longer wait for clarity from others. You no longer seek permission to move forward. You no longer rely on external approval to validate your direction. You begin taking responsibility for your path, and that responsibility becomes your power. This is the internal shift that changes everything. You may also begin noticing that your emotional landscape is stabilizing. The things that once triggered you now lose their power. The people who once drained you no longer influence your peace. The situations that once exhausted you now reveal your strength. This emotional maturity is part of the funding. When your emotions stop pulling you in every direction, your energy becomes available for growth, creation, and elevation. Chosen one, you may feel your standards rising without force. You desire better, you expect better, you attract better. You no longer settle for half-hearted connections, unclear communication, inconsistent behavior, or environments that do not support your growing identity. This rising standard is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are aligning with the version of yourself who knows your worth. And this alignment is what shapes the next chapter of your life. You may also begin seeing relationships differently. The people you once tolerated now feel heavy. The conversations you once entertained now feel empty. You crave depth. You crave honesty. You crave people whose energy supports your elevation. This craving is part of the funding. When your circle shifts, your life shifts. When your company changes, your direction changes. When your connections reflect your growth, your life begins to reflect it too. Chosen one, you may feel a new clarity emerging about how you want your life to look. Your vision becomes sharper. Your goals feel closer. Your dreams feel more realistic. This is not random, it is preparation. Your spirit is preparing you to receive the next level by showing you what the next level even looks like. Before you receive, you must see. Before you step into it, you must envision it. This is part of the divine alignment unfolding inside you. You may also begin feeling a shift in your habits. You may crave more structure, more discipline, more intentionality. You may feel compelled to declutter your environment, upgrade your routines, or adjust your daily rhythm. These changes are not small. They are the foundation of what you are stepping into. Habits are the architecture of identity. And when your habits change, it means your identity is transforming from the inside out. Chosen one, the shock you will experience is the realization that you are no longer operating from who you used to be. You are no longer living from survival. You are no longer reacting from fear. You are no longer repeating cycles that once held you hostage. Instead, your choices begin to reflect your growth. Your thoughts begin to reflect your wisdom. Your energy begins to reflect your healing. And your path begins to reflect your truth. You may feel that something is shifting beneath the surface, a subtle yet undeniable pull toward alignment. You begin saying no more easily. You begin saying yes more intentionally. You begin trusting yourself more fully. This internal alignment is the precursor to external transformation. Nothing elevates outside until it elevates inside. And inside you, something is rising. Chosen one, your sense of worth is growing. Your belief in yourself is strengthening. Your trust in your own intuition is becoming unshakable. These internal upgrades are not random. They are the energetic foundation for what comes next. You are entering a season where your identity becomes your wealth. Your clarity becomes your currency. Your healing becomes your foundation. Your confidence becomes your advantage. This is the beginning of a chapter where your life becomes richer because you became richer internally. This is the internal shift behind the message. Chosen one, your bank account will shock you. God is funding you now. Not literally, not magically, but through the rise of your mind, the rise of your spirit, and the rise of your identity. Chosen one, as this inner funding continues to move through your life, you may begin feeling a shift in the way you see challenges. What once felt like obstacles now feels like opportunities. What once felt like setbacks now feels like redirection. What once felt like endings now feels like protection. This shift in perspective is one of the clearest signs that your inner world is expanding. It is not that life suddenly became easier. It is that you became stronger. And because your strength is rising, your spirit is able to interpret life with a clarity that was once unavailable to you. You may also notice that the conversations you entertain are changing. You speak less from fear and more from truth. You express yourself with confidence instead of hesitation. You choose your words with intention instead of impulse. This communication upgrade is part of your inner funding. It is the wealth of emotional intelligence becoming available to you. It is the richness of calm, the luxury of clarity, the abundance of knowing exactly what you mean and meaning exactly what you say. Chosen one, your decision-making is evolving too. You are no longer led by urgency or panic. You are led by wisdom. You take your time when it matters. You move quickly when something aligns. You listen to your intuition when something feels unclear. You trust your energy when something feels off. That trust is wealth. That discernment is abundance. That intuition is the funding that guides your next steps. You may feel yourself becoming more protective of your energy, not out of fear, but out of respect. You recognize that your peace is sacred. Your mind is sacred. Your time is sacred. You no longer entertain situations that deplete you emotionally. You no longer allow people to access parts of you they have not earned. You no longer sacrifice your well-being for the comfort of others. This is internal funding, the funding of self-respect. Chosen one, you may also find that your emotional reactions have changed. You pause where you once panicked. You breathe where you once broke down. You reflect where you once lashed out. This emotional maturity is the result of inner stability, and that stability is part of the abundance being built within you. The world often confuses abundance with money, but true abundance is the ability to manage yourself with strength, clarity, and purpose. That is what is being funded now. You may also feel a shift in the way you handle disappointment. You no longer collapse under it. You no longer take rejection as a personal attack. You no longer assume that a closed door means failure. Instead, you see it as a sign that something else, something better, is aligning for you. This ability to remain steady in the face of uncertainty is proof that your emotional foundation has strengthened. And a strong foundation is one of the greatest forms of internal wealth you can ever receive. Chosen one, your vision for your future is also transforming. You are beginning to see possibilities where you once saw limits. You are beginning to imagine outcomes that once felt too big to believe in. You are beginning to desire things that reflect your growth rather than your fears. These expanded desires are not delusion. They are alignment. They are signs that your identity is rising to meet the future you are meant to experience. You may also feel your patience increasing, not because you enjoy waiting, but because you no longer fear waiting. You understand that timing is part of the process. You understand that rushing leads to misalignment. You understand that what is meant for you will always arrive, not through force, but through readiness. This patience is wealth. This patience is the luxury of emotional control. This patience is the funding that strengthens your character. Chosen one, your relationship with stress is changing as well. Stress no longer destroys you. It develops you. You do not avoid pressure. You manage it. You do not collapse under demand. You adjust to it. You do not fear challenges. You learn from them. This emotional adaptability is part of the internal abundance being cultivated inside of you. It is the kind of wealth that allows you to navigate life with steadiness, no matter what comes your way. You may even notice a shift in your relationship with rest. Rest no longer feels like weakness. It feels like strength. It feels like self-awareness. It feels like honoring your limits. You allow yourself to pause without guilt. You allow yourself to recharge without apology. You allow yourself to slow down when your spirit calls for it. This understanding is luxury. The luxury of balance, the luxury of self-care, the luxury of harmony. Chosen one, Your inner voice is becoming more supportive, more empowering, more confident. You speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. You encourage yourself instead of doubting your abilities. You trust your own wisdom instead of waiting for validation. This new inner dialogue is funding. It is the richest internal gift you can receive, the ability to love yourself through your growth. You may also notice that your boundaries are becoming more natural. You no longer struggle to say no. You no longer feel anxious when protecting your space. You no longer question whether you deserve respect. You know your worth. You feel your worth. You act from your worth. That is abundance. That is internal wealth. That is the kind of funding that transforms your entire life. Chosen one, the more your inner world rises, the calmer your outer world becomes. The more your spirit stabilizes, the clearer your path appears. The more grounded you become, the more aligned your decisions feel. This is inner abundance unfolding in real time. This is spiritual funding being activated at the level of identity, not circumstance. Your confidence is rising. Your clarity is sharpening. Your emotional capacity is expanding. Your boundaries are strengthening. Your inner peace is stabilizing. This is the internal shock you will feel long before anything external shifts. Chosen one, as this inner funding expands within you, you may begin sensing a new level of grounded confidence moving through your spirit. It's not the loud, boastful kind. It's the quiet certainty that comes from knowing who you are and what you carry within you. You feel it in the way you speak, in the way you think, in the way you move. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need validation because it rises from a place deeper than ego. This is the funding of identity, the kind that transforms your life from the inside out. You may also begin noticing that the fear you once felt around making big decisions is beginning to fade. Where you once hesitated, you now analyze. Where you once doubted, you now reflect. Where you once froze, you now move with intention. This new decisiveness is not impulsive. It is informed by the wisdom you've gained over time. You've learned to trust yourself, to trust your insight, to trust your intuition. That trust is wealth. That trust is the currency of self-belief. Chosen one, your emotional reactions are also revealing the growth that has been unfolding quietly within you. You no longer shatter at the first sign of difficulty. You no longer crumble when something unexpected happens. Instead, you breathe. You center yourself. You evaluate your next step. This emotional grounding is not something you always had. It is something you earned through every challenge you've faced. And now it stands as evidence of the inner abundance being built within you. You may find yourself feeling more selective with your attention. You no longer waste mental energy on things that do not nourish your spirit. You no longer engage in conflicts that do not matter. You no longer entertain distractions disguised as obligations. You are becoming more intentional with where you place your focus. This refinement is wealth. The wealth of clarity. The wealth of direction. The wealth of protecting your mental space. Chosen one, your definition of success is changing as well. You no longer chase recognition. You no longer seek applause. You no longer allow external noise to dictate your direction. Success now feels like peace, like alignment, like authenticity. You measure progress through inner shifts rather than outer approval. This internal value system is luxury, the luxury of being grounded in who you are rather than who others want you to be. You may also start noticing how deeply your relationship with patience has transformed. You are no longer desperate for immediate answers. You no longer rush outcomes out of fear that nothing better will come. You are learning to let things unfold in their natural timing. This patience is not passiveness. It is power. It is the understanding that what is aligned with you cannot miss you. This level of patience is the wealth of emotional self-control. Chosen one, unexpected calm may begin to follow you into moments where you once felt overwhelmed. Situations that used to throw you off balance no longer disturb your peace. You approach difficulties with clearer thinking. You move through stress with more grace. This emotional evolution is a form of abundance that many never experience. It is the richness of being in control of yourself, even when life becomes uncertain. You may also notice a shift in your priorities. What once felt urgent now feels unimportant. What once consumed you now barely holds your attention. What once drained you now feels beneath the version of yourself you are becoming. This shift is not arrogance, it is growth. Your spirit is guiding you toward what truly matters. This inward redirection is part of the funding, part of the abundance that shapes your next chapter. Chosen one, the people you attract are shifting too. As your energy becomes more aligned, you begin drawing individuals who see you clearly, value you deeply, and connect with you authentically. You attract conversations that stimulate your mind rather than drain your emotions. You draw in relationships that offer stability rather than confusion. This alignment in your connections is evidence that your inner world is rising into a new frequency. You may find yourself releasing expectations that once weighed heavily on you. You no longer demand perfection from yourself. You no longer criticize yourself for growing at your own pace. You no longer punish yourself for not knowing everything immediately. Instead, you offer yourself grace. You allow yourself to evolve gently. You allow yourself to learn without shame. This self-compassion is one of the richest forms of inner funding you will ever receive. Chosen one, you may also begin experiencing a deeper sense of clarity regarding your purpose. Not in the sense of having every detail figured out, but in the sense of understanding your direction more intuitively. You feel the pull toward certain paths. You feel resonance with certain choices. You feel misalignment more quickly. Your spirit is becoming your compass, and you are learning to follow it with confidence rather than fear. You may also notice that your inner voice is becoming louder, stronger, and more trustworthy. The part of you that once doubted every step now encourages your growth. The part of you that once silenced your intuition now listens with intention. The part of you that once diminished your own power now stands firmly in your truth. This shift in internal dialogue is abundance, the kind that builds a foundation of unwavering self-belief. Chosen one, the deeper this inner funding flows, the more you realize that the true shock is not what happens outside of you. It is what awakens inside you. You begin to feel stronger. You begin to feel more capable. You begin to feel more aligned with your next chapter. Your identity is rising. Your awareness is rising. Your emotional intelligence is rising. And all of this, every shift, every realization, every moment of clarity, is the beginning of the shock the message refers to. The shock of looking in the mirror and finally seeing the version of yourself you once only imagined. The shock of realizing how much you've grown. The shock of understanding that your inner world has become richer than it has ever been. Chosen one, as this inner funding deepens, you may find yourself becoming more aware of the subtle ways your energy shifts around certain environments, people, and situations. What once blended in now stands out. What once felt normal now feels heavy. What once seemed harmless now feels draining. This new sensitivity is not weakness, it is elevation. Your spirit is becoming more refined, and because of that refinement, anything misaligned becomes instantly recognizable. This awareness is part of the abundance entering your life. It is the funding of intuition, the wealth of clarity. You may begin noticing that you're no longer willing to carry other people's emotional weight. You no longer absorb their chaos. You no longer internalize their projections. You no longer feel responsible for fixing what does not belong to you. This emotional separation is not coldness. It is growth. You are learning to distinguish compassion from self-sacrifice. You are learning to help without harming yourself. This is the internal shift that frees your spirit to rise without the burden of everyone else's expectations. Chosen one, you may also start to feel a new rhythm developing in your life, a slower, more intentional rhythm. You're not rushing. You're not forcing. You're not panicking. You're moving with purpose, even when the path is not entirely clear. This calmness is part of the inner funding being poured into your life. When your nervous system stabilizes, your mind sharpens. When your mind sharpens, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your entire life begins to unfold differently. You may feel your spirit becoming more disciplined, not in a harsh or restrictive way, but in a grounded and aligned way. You start choosing routines that support your growth. You start eliminating distractions that steal your focus. You start engaging in behaviors that strengthen your mind and protect your peace. This discipline is the luxury that many overlook. It is the abundance of consistency. It is the funding of self-respect turned into action. Chosen one, as this shift continues, you may begin realizing how deeply you've outgrown certain emotional cycles. You no longer chase what confuses you. You no longer cling to what drains you. You no longer romanticize what hurts you. Instead, you stand firm in your truth. That firmness is wealth. That stability is abundance. That clarity is the evidence of your evolution. You may also feel that your relationship with silence has changed. Silence no longer feels uncomfortable. It feels sacred. Silence becomes a space where your intuition speaks clearly. Silence becomes a mirror that reveals your growth. Silence becomes a sanctuary where your spirit recalibrates. This comfort in stillness is inner luxury, a sign that you are no longer afraid of what lives inside you. Chosen one, unexpected breakthroughs may begin forming in your awareness, not always as external changes, but as inner revelations. You may suddenly understand why something happened. You may see a pattern you never noticed. You may realize the purpose of a situation that once confused you. These breakthroughs are not random. They are signs that your inner intelligence is rising to match your next level. You may also begin to feel more aligned with your values. You know what matters now. You know what feels right. You know what you will no longer allow. This alignment guides you away from what once distracted you and toward what truly supports your soul. This clarity is funding for your future, sourced from your inner truth. Chosen one, your sense of peace is also becoming more stable. You may find yourself recovering from emotional disruptions faster than ever. You may notice that negativity doesn't linger the way it once did. You may feel yourself returning to calmness with less effort. This emotional resilience is one of the clearest signs that you are becoming internally wealthy. Peace is the highest currency a spirit can hold, and you are holding more of it every day. You may also feel your creativity waking up in new ways. Ideas begin flowing more naturally. Solutions appear more easily. Inspiration finds you when you're quiet, when you're resting, when you're paying attention to your inner world. Creativity is a form of abundance. It is the universe speaking through your imagination. And this rise in creativity reflects the expansion happening within you. Chosen one, you may notice that you are less attached to outcomes. Not because you don't care, but because you trust yourself and your path more deeply. You trust the timing. You trust your intuition. You trust your ability to adapt. This detachment is not disinterest. It is strength. It is the ability to remain grounded while life unfolds. That is abundance. That is emotional wealth. You may find that forgiveness is reaching you too. Forgiveness for yourself, for your mistakes, for your past versions, for the people who didn't know how to treat you. This forgiveness is not weakness, it is liberation. It frees your energy from resentment. It frees your heart from heaviness. It frees your mind from replaying old pain. Forgiveness is inner prosperity, the kind that clears space for new blessings to land. Chosen one, the more your inner world stabilizes, the more you begin attracting experiences that match your new frequency. Opportunities that once seemed unlikely begin appearing. Connections that feel safe and genuine begin forming. Doors that were once closed begin cracking open. These external alignments are not coincidences. They are the natural result of your internal transformation. The shock your bank account will reflect is symbolic. The shock of realizing how deeply you've evolved, how powerfully you've healed, how richly your spirit has been funded. Your identity is rising into someone who can hold more. Your energy is rising into someone who attracts more. Your mind is rising into someone who creates more. Chosen one, as this inner funding continues to expand within you, you may start to notice a transformation in the way you understand responsibility. Not the heavy, draining responsibility of carrying burdens that were never yours, but the empowered responsibility of owning your choices, your growth, your habits, and your healing. You hold yourself accountable, not because you're hard on yourself, but because you're finally aware of your value. This newfound accountability is wealth. It is the wealth of maturity, the wealth of self-awareness, the wealth of knowing you have the power to shape your life from the inside out. You may feel yourself becoming more intentional with how you use your energy. Instead of using your emotional reserves to survive chaos, you use them to build clarity. Instead of wasting your mental space on what drains you, you invest it in what strengthens you. Instead of giving your time to temporary distractions, you channel it into meaningful growth. This shift in energy allocation is funding, of the internal kind that changes your direction, your stability, and your long-term evolution. Chosen one, you may also notice that your internal dialogue has transformed into something more nourishing, more encouraging, more stable. You speak to yourself like someone you are learning to love, rather than someone you are trying to fix. You reassure yourself instead of tearing yourself down. You honor your emotions instead of silencing them. This gentle self-talk becomes the foundation of your inner wealth. It feels like inner safety, something you once thought you needed to find outside of yourself, but are now discovering within. You may also begin to recognize how deeply your emotional patterns have shifted. What used to trigger you now teaches you. What used to overwhelm you now reveals your progress. What used to intimidate you now feels manageable. This transformation doesn't happen suddenly, but gradually, like light slowly filling a dark room. This illumination is part of the inner funding you are receiving, the wealth of insight, the richness of emotional intelligence. And as this new awareness deepens, you understand that your growth is no longer something you chase. It is something you embody.